out of here, Mike Thomas. All right, back here on planet Earth.
Let me go back to Earth. Here we go.
Two major legal setbacks for President Trump. First up, a federal judge says the construction on the new White House ballroom must stop until it receives approval from Congress. In a 35-page opinion, the judge wrote President Trump likely did not have the authority to tear down the East Wing and make other significant changes to the White House. He also questioned who is in charge of the construction and if private donations can be used to fund it. The president says he's raised more than $350 million of the $400 million he says it will cost for that ballroom. Now, a little earlier in the day, a federal judge blocked President Trump's efforts to end funding for NPR and PBS. U.S. District Judge Randolph Moss ruled President Trump's presidential directive unlawful and unenforceable. Moss said the First Amendment does not allow for, quote, viewpoint discrimination and retaliation. NPR's president and CEO says the decision affirms the rights of a free and independent press, and PBS released a statement saying the company is thrilled with the decision. So, for more on these legal setbacks and the other big political headlines of the day, we are bringing in our team of experts, Democratic Strategist Jonathan Harris and Republican Strategist Brian Maloney, joining us now live. Guys, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the Live Zone Primetime.
Sure thing.
So, Jonathan, I want to start with you. The East Wing is gone. I mean, it's demolished. So is this too little too late, this ruling?
You know, unfortunately, like you said, it is pretty much gone, and that is a bit sad historically for the people who appreciated all the historical events that happened at the White House. That is a bit sad, but it is something to be said to stop it at least where it is and let the president know that he is the president, not a king. He is not a dictator. He doesn't get to just make arbitrary decisions to destroy parts of our White House and parts of the country just because he gets a whim. So yes, in one sense it does feel a little bit too late, but in another sense it is very important to check this man and let him know that he serves the people and that the people don't serve him and that he doesn't get to just do whatever he wants whenever he wants.
Brian, let me ask you this. With some of these setbacks that the president has gone through from a legal perspective, as well as there are others in the pipeline for some of his policies, birthright citizenship being one of them, does this potentially set back and change President Trump's strategy? Is he going to work more with Congress now and not as much through the courts, or do you see him continuing on this same track?
No, it doesn't at all, because look, the bottom line here is that these are not the issues that if Democrats press these all the way to November, that they are going to win the midterms with. The East Wing business is privately, the funds were privately raised here. It's already been knocked down. There's been a 14-day stay of execution. It then is appealed all the way to the top, and in all likelihood, he wins in the end. The American people are so much more concerned with economic issues, domestic issues, war, etc., and also bringing back this NPR and PBS funding matter just brings a culture war issue back to the forefront that had been left behind and plays into Trump's hands also. So, some things go his way, some things don't. But, I think Democrats do have ways to win in November, lots of ways, but these two are not the way to do it.
And when thinking about this, Jonathan, when looking at, for example, the president's speech tomorrow night, which will be at 9 o'clock in address to the nation, the war for him is very much an unpopular topic. What do you see coming out of this potential speech from the president about this war, and how do you expect Democrats to respond to it tomorrow night?
Donald Trump is a delusional. I want to stop short of maybe calling him a nut. But I mean, he is delusional. I mean, this is a man who at every turn, every time he does something, his approval rating goes down. And it's as if somehow he has no idea what his approval rating is. His approval rating is in the low 30s. So if someone were telling you every time you're doing something, your approval rating is dropping, the approval rating of the people that you serve is plummeting, a logical, intelligent person would say, maybe I should do something different. And I know that I probably, I don't make it a habit of when I'm a guest on a show asking my co-panelists questions, so I won't do it now. But I'm so tempted to ask my co-panelists, when you were voting for Donald Trump and campaigning for Donald Trump, during the election. Were you voting and campaigning for for a net negative or net zero job creation? That's according to Jerome Powell. That if you averaged out the numbers and you played with the numbers and put them where they were supposed to be, we would have net zero job creation. The 4.4% unemployment just increased. Did you advocate for regime change and starting a new war? Did you want a new war in Iran? Of course it wasn't. I mean, can I ask you that? Is that what you were advocating for? That was the Trump that you wanted?
Hey, Brian, Brian, you can definitely answer if you want to.
Well, look, the bottom line here is that Iran is a 47-year-old headache, a mess started by Jimmy Carter that subsequent presidents kicked the can down the road while the country festered and became a global nightmare with a potential nuclear power element to it. So, we have been waiting for a president who would do something about this for years and years and years. It's the West that brought this regime into power in Iran. Nobody in Iran wants it. And the million-plus Iranians who live in this country can't wait for the regime to be toppled. The question is not, should Trump have gotten us into this war? The question is, does he take the off-ramp that he's looking at taking right now to end it prematurely, or does he push to the end to the point where the regime has been changed? And that's the key argument right now. We're in the war. So if you don't like that we got there, that's too late. So the question now is, what does he do next?
Well, I forgot about the record high gas prices, the record high debt. You skipped over everything that I said except for Iran, and I know why you did it. You did it because, of course, you did not advocate for this Trump. This is not the Trump that you were voting for. This is not the Trump that you were advocating for. And what I find so frustrating about Trump supporters is that you won't just give a straight answer. Just give a straight answer. Just say, he's not doing the things, he's not performing the way that I wanted. Because if you would, perhaps he would. And this seems like a very long way to answer the anchor's question, but I am answering your question. This silly, idiotic speech is just another example of him being completely out of touch with what his supporters want and what the American people want. And the only people that he's going to listen to are his supporters. But his supporters are too, whatever word you want to use, to just say, hey, you're screwing up here, buddy. This is not, we didn't ask you for record high debt. We didn't ask you for record high gas prices. We didn't ask you for unemployment to shoot up to 4.4%. We didn't ask you for a war. We didn't ask you for boots on the ground and regime change. We asked for the opposite of that. And so what my hope is that he's not going to listen to Democrats, but he might actually listen to his supporters if his supporters can find the gumption to stop being these cult-like supporters and call him out for the fact that he has been an abject failure. He is the most unpopular president at any point in a president's history right now. He is the most unpopular. This is called failure.
Yeah, look, the bottom line here is that, we don't even know what he's going to say tomorrow. We don't know what he is going to be talking about. But what we have seen for the last 24 hours or 48 hours or so is the president looking for ways out of this. And the question then becomes, what should he do? Israel wants to push ahead for full regime change. If we want to talk about rhetoric in terms of whether Trump's popular or not, as far as I'm concerned, that's a different debate. Debate here is what the next move is, the next move forward. And of course, Trump has an eye on the midterm elections. Do I think that Trump is spending enough time on domestic issues to win the November elections? No, I don't. And I've said so repeatedly on this channel and on different programs repeatedly. I'm not a rubber stamp for anybody. And I mean, we want to talk about rubber stamping stuff. I mean, this no king's business. Prince Charles, King Charles, please don't come to the U.S. because, we have a king in the White House. Okay,
do you think that there's a problem?
Where do we go with that? That's a little silly. So, it's silly season, it's election year, I get it. But the bottom line is we've got a world here where chess pieces are moving around and we can gripe and complain or whatever, or we can figure out the next best course of action.
Now, Brian,
It's his
let me
resignation.
let me ask you this one, Brian, just to follow up. Is there a certain, in your mind, a reset that the president needs to do in these next 3 to 6 months, in your mind, like 2 or 3 bullet points that he needs to get done to potentially wrestle this? Really, again, as John was mentioning, the poll ratings are getting down to 39, 38% from Nate Silver's line, which is usually very conservative. So are there things that he needs to do to arrest this?
Well, yes, and I've been talking about them repeatedly. First of all, though, we just had 4 years of a very unpopular president who, until he was yanked from the race, was fully intent on running again. People have already forgotten the name of Joe Biden, but the bottom line here is that, so to say that this is some kind of scary number that we're seeing. However, I have been talking about what the reset should be. It should be the focus on domestic issues, on economic issues. He's got to get back to this $2,000 tariff rebate check. He's got to get back to 10% cap on credit card interest rates. And he's got to get back to touring around the country again in a way that I've never seen anyone do better than him, in terms of meeting with the people directly and talking about the issues that matter. Because let's be frank, there is a lot of frustration with that right now. Now, I don't think we're anywhere near record high gas prices, but they've certainly gone up and people are not happy. And Trump is trying to bring them back down again, but it's not going to be easy absent that off ramp that he is looking at taking to get out of this war, if he takes that, which is up for debate. So, there's a lot to be done. And I mean, to point all the fingers at Trump, if we get obliterated as Republicans in November, I'm sorry, but I'm pointing most of the fingers at Congress, the Republican-controlled Senate taking a break until April 13th. That's where my frustration is. It's with the House to a smaller extent, but it's with the U.S. Senate to a larger extent.
What happened to the buck stops here? I mean, Jesus, this is a president who wants all the accolades when things go well. Things haven't been going well for a very long time, so he wouldn't get those. But he wants all the accolades when things go well. This is a president who wants a Nobel Peace Prize while starting a war. I've never heard of something so abjectly stupid in my life. But
Jonathan,
leave it to Donald Trump to want a Nobel Peace Prize while starting a war. But the buck stops there. But no, we want to blame Congress. Okay.
Jonathan, let me ask you a question. What is the Democrat strategy at this point? Like Brian just said, Congress getting a lot of blame for what's going on right now. Are they content to sit back and let President Trump, quote unquote, self-destruct and just let this kind of play out the way it is? Or do they have a plan going into the midterms to show the American people that they have a plan to fix these issues, bring down gas prices, bring down unemployment?
Well, gas prices are at a record high. And one of the things that I think is important to point out is that all of these failures of Donald Trump, look, when it came down to the situations that have been going on in the airports recently, you had all these Republicans trying to blame Democrats when Democrats had put forth several plans. But again, Democrats don't control the White House, they don't control the Senate, and they don't control the House. So there's not that much that they can do. So what the Democrats can do is really just sit back. They can, because that's really the position they're in, and say, look, if you want to see how things run with Republicans in charge, watch. Watch your airports, watch your gas prices, watch your grocery prices, watch all of those things. And if you like that, then vote for more of it. If you don't like that, then vote for the Democrats, because you want to say that Joe Biden was unpopular. Gallup just stopped counting presidential approval ratings, but Donald Trump's lowest approval rating was 34%. He was right near that right now before they stopped counting it at 35%, I believe it was. So you can say that Joe Biden was unpopular. He was never that unpopular. So my point in saying that is President Biden had our economy as the envy of the world. This is an undisputed fact. This isn't my opinion. This is an undisputed fact that he had our economy at the envy of the world. And in the 5 seconds that Trump has been in office, he has ruined our economy. And so the point I'm trying to make, and to answer your question, is Democrats are not in a position of power right now. They're not in a position where they can do anything other than kind of make what their proposals are clear, but they can't implement them. They can't show what it would be like if they were implemented. So all they can do is they can leave it to the American people to say, look, if you like your gas prices shooting through the roof, if you like groceries being as expensive if they are, if you like the idea that they want to bring back the draft and start a boots on the ground war with Iran, and know that, to my co-panelist's point, what he said, we did not kick the can down the road. President Obama had an agreement with Iran, and Trump shredded it. So please don't make that up. No,
he gave them billions of dollars in cash. I mean, it was ridiculous.
You mean their money?
I mean, basically what I'm hearing here is that the Democrat plan is 100% anti-Trump
that money was
and
there.
Pushing nothing, no agenda forward of its own. I mean, if that's what you want to do going into November, great. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you ought to actually stand for something other than just being against Trump. I don't think you can get to the finish line that way. I don't think it's enough.
It's not about being against Trump. It's just watching him fail. And please do your research on Iran and the money.
All right, guys. No finger pointing. Let's keep it civil. All right. Tony's got a question.
So, Jonathan, my question is, when you talk about, okay, is it resist or not? We saw the No Kings protest, right? And that was very successful.
Right.
8 million people. It was a very, it's a great, from economic perspective, a lot of diversity of thought, and in terms of what was going forward with all those types of protests, right? A lot of younger Democrats are saying, well, we need something. We need a program, for example. Do you think that Democrats could potentially do something like more like a shadow government or a Republican-style 1994 contract with America, where you come out in front of the Capitol and lay out, here's our 10 things we're going to do in terms of policy when you give us the reins of power? Could that be a better strategy to be paired with a resistance, no king strategy, or is it more just about waiting and seeing?
I just, this is just my opinion. I don't think it's necessary. I really don't. I mean, I think one of the most horrific things that I've seen, truly, is what ICE has been doing. Kristi Noem, of course, was not fired because ICE was killing Americans and using children as bait to get their parents. That would get anyone fired under a sane regime. No, she was fired because she spent $200 million on a ridiculous ad campaign. But one of the most horrific things I've seen is what ICE has been doing, and that has been turning off the American people. And I use that as an example because the Democrats didn't need to do anything. They just need to stand back and say, look, is this the America that you want? I think these No Kings protests, to me, in one sense, I think that they're important because I think it demonstrates to America that the country does not support Trump. And it is, in case there was any confusion, in case there was any question about that, the majority of the country is against Donald Trump. But at the same time, I do think it's important to point out that it's not really that important for the Democrats to come out and do a shadow government like you were talking about, or here's our proposal. It's just look at what Trump is doing. And, do you feel safe? Do you think that you're more safe in your community when ICE comes out and could potentially kill someone that you love, drag an elderly person through the streets, take a child that's 3, 4, 5 years old, and use them as bait to get their parents? Do you feel safer? That
was a technical error on my part, guys. Hang tight with me for 1 second. Jonathan, you can finish your point, and then we're going to go to Brian.
That's really just essentially my point. I think they could. I really do think that the Democrats could do that, but I don't think it's important. I think Trump is failing so badly. His polling on the economy, on almost every issue, is so terrible. I mean, he's lost a record amount of support with the Latino community, which he was so proud of during the election. I could go down the list. I don't think the Democrats need to do anything. I think they need to just sit and watch Trump fail until the election happens, and let that be the end of it.
All right, Brian, I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, so the bottom line here is if Trump were to leave office tomorrow and be replaced by someone else, the Democrats would be left all the way to November with no agenda at all, because 100% of it is about attacking Trump. And I think you have to advocate something of your own. You have to stand for something. I don't think attacking whether you think the president is popular or unpopular, I don't see how this brings people to where you need them to be. It's just not enough. And so, if Democrats want to go this route, I think they're consumed with hatred for Trump, and it gets the better of them 9 times out of 10. So we'll see what happens. But if this is all they've got, I'm feeling a lot better about the midterms right now.
All right, Jonathan Harris.
It's not hatred.
Brian
It's just
Maloney.
watching them fail.
Jonathan Harris and Brian Maloney, thank you guys both
Thank
for
you,
spending
guys.
some time
Thank
with
you.
us here tonight on the Live Zone
Thank
Primetime.
you.
And of course, we will have
Sure thing.
President's entire address tomorrow night.